Tonight, we bring you an exclusive interview with the man who went undercover to seek out the mastermind behind the craziness and creativity of the world's largest hotel.
Habbo Hotel is inhabited by paedophiles.
He asked her to show herself naked via webcam.
Today we're going to be talking about the rise and fall of Habbo Hotel, one of the most infamous chat rooms on the internet, only rivaled by Club Penguin, of course. Habbo Hotel has had a long history, and you may be surprised to know it's still up and running. But I was really interested to look at what made Habbo Hotel so popular, what happened, and where we are now with it. So that is what we're going to be discussing today. As you can see, I went back onto Habbo Hotel myself to see what it was like at the moment, and I think I'm qualified to talk about this because I have over 21 days of playtime in Habbo Hotel from 2008 to 2009, so I think I'm a pro. That's a lot of time to spend on Habbo Hotel. I have split this video into sections and I will timestamp them for you in the description, so if you want to skip ahead or come back to anything, you can do that. There's different sections and chapters to this video, if that makes sense. I have also put all my sources in the description, so if you have any interest in reading any of the articles and the documents that I read, you are more than welcome to go check them out yourself. So let's start with the history of Habbo Hotel.
Welcome to a world of its own, Habbo Hotel. This is a...
Habbo Hotel was the result of an experiment by two Finnish men. Their name is Aapo Kyrölä and Sampo Karjalainen. No, I cannot pronounce those names. In 1999, they created an app in Finland called Mobile Disco, which was kind of similar to the original premise of Habbo Hotel. Basically, you create a character, you go to the bar, you talk to people, you do moves on the dance floor, that kind of thing. It was very basic and it ran from 1999 to 2002. During that time, it became so popular that there was demand for an international version or a more expansive version. People not from Finland were downloading the app and using it. So there was obviously a market there for that type of game. So to expand on that, they created a game in 2000 called Lumisota. I believe that's how you pronounce it. And it was basically a test for the commercial use of a game like this to see how they could make money. It was a game based around snowball fights. I think that was an element to the game. And people could pay basically to increase the power of their snowballs. This turned out to be a massive mistake and people turned out to not be interested in paying for functionality, and they discovered that people were more interested in cosmetic purchases instead. So in August 2000, the first version of Habbo Hotel was released in Finland, and it was originally named Hotel Goldfish. This game was relatively popular. There was demand for it elsewhere, as with the original app. So someone called D. Edwards brought it to England and became the site producer for the newly named Habbo Hotel. So in 2001 and 2002, the game was kind of coming about, but they were really interested in learning how to profit off of the site. It wasn't clear whether the best method was just to put advertisements in or to pay for memberships, etc, etc. So that's what they were exploring during that time, and it was also a huge time of expansion for them. They not only opened the English Habbo Hotel, the one for the UK, they also opened a Swiss one and they opened one in Japan. So Habbo Hotel as a concept is a free-to-play game where you create a character who is like a childlike figure, and you basically have a room in the hotel and you can go around and see other people's rooms and talk to each other, that kind of thing. Obviously expanded from that, but that was the original idea basically. I'm now going to dive into how they kind of monetized Habbo Hotel so you can know where their financial success came from. Over the course of Habbo's life, there are many means of income for them, but originally it was a form of advertisements. These can be both on the launcher website but also in-game, so there can be specific pieces of furniture that are branded to basically a company's design. But I would say the bigger moneymaker, or at least in my perspective, would have been the paid membership option to Habbo Hotel, and also the credits you could purchase to use in-game. In order to create demand for the credits and the in-game purchases, they introduced furniture and trading very early on into the game, so people could trade furniture with each other. Of course, the rarer pieces of furniture, or the more exclusive pieces of furniture, were locked behind paywalls basically, so you'd have to buy credits or trade for credits in order to buy these items, or you'd have to buy membership to get these items, and that created an in-game market. So I have to admit, I was a member of this. I did pay as a young child for the paid membership for Habbo Hotel. So of course Habbo Hotel is free to play, anyone can go and do it, it still is a free to play game. But Habbo Club was introduced in late 2002 and it's a paid membership option. It cost 25 credits to become a member. So for context, I've only got the UK pricing. For 14 days it's £2, for a month it's £4, for 6 months it's £20 and 49p, and then for a year it's about £40 or £38 and 99p. So relatively inexpensive, though I don't know. So there were obviously benefits to becoming a paid member. So for every month you are a member, you get rewarded with an exclusive piece of furniture that can only be accessed by club members. But you could still trade these items to non-members, so that gave them an increased sense of value. In-game, there is also a kind of marketplace, a catalogue where you can buy furniture with credits. If you remember, there was a whole section of items that only you could buy if you remember. If you weren't a member, you did not have access to this catalogue or this area, but you could trade for these items. Club members also got new room layouts, bigger room layouts, a bigger friend list, so you would have 600 friends slots instead of 300. You'd also get a badge on your profile, and you'd have the main draw for me was the fact that you had more clothing and hair options, and they were much more attractive than just the free membership. Habbo Club remained a feature of the game all the way through its life, pretty much in different forms. From my experience playing the game, if you were a Habbo Club member, you were significantly cooler than everyone else. I think it was the element of the fact that we were children, or at least I was a child at the time and the game was aimed at children. It just kind of meant that your parents had let you buy credit for Habbo Hotel. In 2010, they released Habbo VIP, which is a step up from Habbo Club, so it was like a 2-tier membership option. It cost 10 more credits than Habbo Club and had even more benefits. Obviously, you'd get VIP furniture, gifts, more room layouts, even bigger friend list, even more clothes options. Habbo VIP was relatively successful, so they actually discontinued Habbo Club in 2011, leaving only Habbo VIP as an option, so the more expensive version. This turned out to be a bad decision, as they actually saw a decrease in memberships, so they reintroduced Habbo Club in 2013. More recently, in fact I think it's been over the last couple of years, so from about 2016 onwards, they introduced a club membership called Builders Club, which was basically catering to the remaining loyal members of Habbo Hotel at the time. So Builders Club essentially allowed you to have a catalogue of items for you to build rooms with for free. Well, obviously you paid the membership, but it allowed you to access all the furniture without paying for it. But obviously you couldn't then trade the furniture to other people, it just solely was in your rooms. This membership is still running currently, and it costs 85 credits and 85 diamonds, which is another in-game currency. You basically get 5 diamonds for every credit you buy. Or in money terms, it's about £5 for 14 days or £10 a month, which seems like quite a lot of money to me for it. But so credits were obviously a big money maker for them. You had to have credits to buy membership, you had to have credits to buy furniture, if you wanted to you had to have credits to partake in the stock market and the market exchange place. In fact, trading and the marketplace were massive in Habbo Hotel. People were buying and selling rare items with credits, and it was great. Back in the day, you'd have to ring up from the landline. There were 2 numbers, one for 20 credits and one for 45 credits. It was £1 for 20 credits and £2 for 45. So later on into the game's life, the rate for credits changed. So at the moment it's 20 credits for £2, 40 credits for £4, 55 credits for $5.99, and the most you can get is 630 credits for about £50. Diamonds, as I said before, was introduced later in the game in about 2012 as part of a campaign, and basically you'd get 5 diamonds for every credit you bought. Diamonds could not be exchanged with other people, unlike credits, so you could trade someone your credit. Diamonds could only be, it was locked to your profile, and you could only use them to buy things from a section in the catalogue for diamond rares. So basically you build up enough diamonds to buy exclusively rare items. Can you stop going mad? So all was going well for Habbo Hotel. They were making a lot of money. Over the period from 2000 to 2010, they had over 9 million users. It was amazing. They also merged all the English-speaking servers into one site. They merged Canada and America into one site, so on and so forth. Habbo was also so popular they had fan remake sites that were almost as popular as Habbo Hotel itself. Some of these sites allowed you to just access all the furniture for free. There was no trading involved. One of the fan sites was in fact so popular it ended up being endorsed by Habbo itself, and they ended up working together. So that was interesting. That was Habbo X. So obviously you might be thinking, what went wrong? Why is it dead? Is it just because it's so old? Is it like Club Penguin? Was it just discontinued? What happened? It's more crazy than I thought, and I think I don't remember any of this from my childhood because I was just not watching the news. I was too young, or I don't know.
Welcome back. Last week we ran an investigation to Habbo Hotel.
I was being asked to strip to get fully naked.
So as some of you might know, Habbo Hotel originally was marketed to children and teenagers, so from the ages of 13 to 18 generally. It's definitely aesthetically designed for children. It's very cutesy. The character models are all children. They're like little children figures. So it was definitely designed around room building, mini games, socialising. It was a kids' website, essentially. The big revelations behind Habbo Hotel actually happened in 2012, but I was playing in 2008 and 2009, and I was probably about 12 to 13 at the time. And these things were happening then, when I was on the site. So it was clearly happening for a long time. So a journalist named Rachel Seifert went undercover on Habbo Hotel. She posed as an 11-year-old girl and played for 2 months to see what was going on behind the scenes, what the parents weren't seeing in Habbo Hotel. She then released an article called Striptease and Cyber Sex, My Stay at Habbo Hotel, and that went viral. This was released at the peak of Habbo Hotel's popularity. They were receiving 10 million unique visitors every month. It was massive, and this kind of started the beginning of the end. Rachel reported that the site was filled with pornographic chat. Rachel's article actually brought to light the lack of safeguarding for children on Habbo Hotel. She said when she originally went on there, it obviously looks very child friendly, it's very colourful, there's lots of toys and games, but as soon as she went into public rooms, she found the chat bombarded with cybersex. And this wasn't just on one visit to Habbo Hotel, this was prevalent throughout her 2-month stay there. She said, I had little cartoon boys coming up to me and they were feeling my boobs, following me to the bedroom and having sex with me, all without my permission or encouragement. She was even asked if she would go on Skype, if she would do things in front of the camera for them, even though she'd said she was only 11 years old. She even reported that it felt like this was what the site was mainly used for. During the period of her stay, the 2 most popular rooms, and advertised as the 2 most popular rooms because it has like a popular room section, were called Sexy Strip Club and Naughty Nightclub. And in these rooms they were filled with beds where people would go lie down and wait for each other to have cyber sex. There were also items in the game that shook when people sat in it. They were like kissing booths, and people would act out cyber sex in them. The outfits people would wear in this room, they could put their characters into like thongs and rabbit ears and stuff like that, which is clearly inappropriate. When this was released, Paul LaFontaine, who was the chief executive of Habbo Hotel, said that they were committed to ensuring children were safe, and they stated that they have moderators and filters to block abusive content and users. And I'm gonna be honest with you,
that's bullshit.
If in Habbo Hotel UK, in the English-speaking Habbo Hotel, the most popular rooms have sexual connotations in their name, surely they should be removed. If there are safeguarding measures, Why are there inappropriate items of clothing for characters to wear? Why are there items of furniture that do explicitly things that children shouldn't be seeing? He also admitted that he only had 225 moderators who had to manage 70 million lines of conversation globally. That's not enough people. And in my opinion, they must have known this was an issue and then they chose not to do anything because it was driving up the player base. Because adults were going on the site. Though that's just in my opinion, it's all speculation. I choose to believe that, yes, it can be missed. Say if the rooms were named something completely different, moderators didn't think to look, but the fact that there were rooms named that and they were the most popular rooms in the hotel, the fact that most of the dialogue that was reported was that stuff. Rachel's concerns were not unjustified. It actually came out that a man named Matthew Leonard, he was aged 21, was sentenced to 7 years imprisonment for grooming young girls on Habbo Hotel. The BBC also did a campaign reaching out to people to learn their experiences, and someone called Sophie came forward. Habbo has a help tool, which is basically giving you direct access to an admin or a moderator on the server. It's for in case of emergencies. She used the Habbo help tool to reach out to Habbo with screenshotted evidence of another player, a male player, asking to send her photos of his private parts and other sexual harassment. And they responded saying that she was abusing the help tool and it wasn't an emergency. So then she emailed Habbo customer support and they emailed back saying, please remove the Habbo from your friend list to avoid getting messages from him. We do not accept screenshots as evidence because they can be altered. Yes, they can. But surely you could look back on the chat logs. If you were doing your job, this would have been caught in the first place. And what, you're expecting someone in 2012 who's probably a child to be able to screen capture and record everything that's happening. And apparently this wasn't uncommon and people were told that they were not using the help tool correctly when they were reporting sexual misconduct.
It looks pretty bad to me.
When this was published, most of the UK realtors who were doing Habbo gift cards for credits stopped selling them. Several investors also left the company. They reportedly also lost over half of their users. I think most of the problem came from the fact that the chief executive had admitted to only having 225 moderators across a server that was massive. If we compare it to today, they apparently have over 1,000 moderators and the site is significantly smaller, but now they don't release like their staff numbers and how many people they employ. I think they learned their lesson. People talked about how there had been so many updates to the game focused on monetization and not enough on safeguarding the children who were playing the game. So obviously this was a massive public disaster for the hotel, and this started an event that was called the Great Mute, or it was otherwise known as the Channel 4 protest. This was a site-wide Habbo mute, which basically meant no one could send any messages in the chat. There was no option to private message anyone, nothing like that. Every single player across all of the Habbo Hotel sites could not say anything. You could go on the game, but you couldn't type anything. This occurred on the 13th of June in 2012. On the 19th of June, Paul then announced their plans for the Great Unmute, where they would start to let players start to talk again. They were using this time to try and improve their filtering system for sexual words and censoring certain things. They released this new chat system in beta testing. This was released to several chats, but not all of them, on June 21st while they were testing it, and then on July 6th, every Habbo Hotel server now had this limited chat, which basically gave you kind of like a list of generic things you could say, and you couldn't type your own messages, if that makes sense. It was very, very limited. On July 17th, free chat was reintroduced so people could type their own messages again with the new filtering system that prevented certain things and words being said. On August 2nd, the final version of the chat was released, and that is how it's remained basically until today. So now there were new things you had to do. So in order to access the free chat, you had to read the Habbo Way, which was the terms and conditions basically of using the chat, and you'd have to do a quiz on internet safety basically. The new filtering system also prevented email addresses, it prevented phone numbers being shared, anything like that. Obviously it was still quite flawed, there were ways around it, but it was better. And also many of the functional items were taken away. So for example, you could leave notes on people's rooms, on sticky notes basically. That was removed and then reintroduced later into the lifespan. However, the mute had happened and the limited chat had happened over the course of about 2 months. And because Habbo Hotel was so centred around the chat function and socialising, it became impossible to do that during the mute. Or very frustrating when the limited chat was released, because obviously you couldn't actually say the things you wanted to say or type anything. So they actually ended up losing the majority of their fan base. They reportedly got back about 75% of their user base, but this really clearly in the public way dwindled over time and kind of made Habbo fade into nostalgia and obscurity really. And since then they have been very private about releasing the member numbers and the user numbers. They don't really talk about it, they don't say how many users they get on an annually basis anymore, nothing like that. However, upon going to Habbo Hotel at the time, before the Great Mute and the disaster, they were getting about 5,000 players online at a time on a server, and that dropped to about 1,200 after the Great Unmute. Another article says they lost about 9 million players, though because no official numbers have ever been released, it's all kind of speculation. So what happens after this? Where has Habbo Hotel been from 2013 onwards?
It's already started. Habbo's massive mobile and online game is celebrating its 15-year anniversary.
Well, it's pretty sparse. I've done a lot of research. I tried to find as much as I could on this period of time, and there is, other than their own updates and like kind of news forum where you can read all their updates and everything, there's not that much talking about it from about 2013 to 2020. So they still had a loyal fan base, and I have to say they clearly had enough players to warrant keeping it open for that long of a time. So in 2013 they opened a Turkish hotel. In 2014 they released Habbo Hotel as a mobile app version of the game, basically, where you could play from your phone. In an interview with people who worked with the Habbo Hotel team, they said they spent from 2013 onwards trying to enter the mobile market. The game already had an app called Pocket Habbo, which is basically a chat functionality. It was basically mini-mail where you private message each other on Habbo Hotel, but on your mobile, so you could do it while you were offline. They discontinued Pocket Habbo in 2015 so they could focus on the new mobile version of Habbo Hotel instead. When looking at the habbo.com/community page, which is where they put all their updates, it became quite clear that they were doing whatever they could over this period of time to retain whatever loyal fan base they still had. They were clearly getting enough to keep the lights on at the hotel, but not so much. So they started having competitions, Builders Club. There became a massive thing about people would make businesses basically and like pay the staff and use credits for that, and it was all kind of very small groups of people still playing. But honestly, and I looked through very quickly about 100 pages of these updates from 2016 to 2019, and there doesn't seem to be much that changed apart from introducing certain competitions, events, media events, so introducing celebrities into the game or whatever, stuff like that. I had a look through Reddit and this period of time for Habbo Hotel, and mostly it was just people asking where all the players had gone, and they reported that there were only hundreds of people online rather than the thousands that there used to be. An article by N Summers reported that the number of rooms where there were 25 people rarely raised above 6 or 7. When you're on a Habbo Hotel, you can see the most popular rooms, and they can get up to 70, 100 people, and there would generally be loads of them back in the heyday, like you could literally scroll for ages. And now the maximum popularity was 25 people and there weren't that many rooms filled, so it was, yeah. Habbo also shrunk over this period of time. There used to be 12 different Habbo hotels and this decreased to 9. Summers went back to the hotel to have a look, see what was going on, and he reports that there are still trolls and still sexually explicit events and dialogue that is happening within the hotel, and he interviewed players who were still loyal players and was there regularly. This article was written in 2019. My speculation is that they of course increased moderation after the big scandal, but then over the years, as the popularity and the player base got smaller and smaller, they decreased the amount of moderators to nearly nothing, so the issue became prevalent again. And I also think their player base age changed significantly over that period of time, because most of the people who were loyal had played as teenagers or children and were now adults. One of the players said, "There is nothing to be done. No one is reporting rooms. No one is reporting the owners of the rooms. The only way I see a casino get banned is if someone tweets it and Habbo sees it." Another user said, "We used to be able to tell the moderator on duty and say, hey, this is happening, and they would go and shut it down, but we don't have that anymore. Now we'll message one of our staff when they'll come online, and then they'll maybe do something, but it might already be over." In another article I read, they predicted that there were only tens of thousands of players rather than millions, and about 70% of them were adults, which makes sense because most of the player base started playing as children. This next section is talking about Habbo Hotel in lockdown and the resurgence of players. So during the first wave of the pandemic globally, Habbo Hotel saw an influx of old players returning, basically. So adults who used to play and were looking for something nostalgic to do while we couldn't socialise with anyone and went on Habbo Hotel. What I found really interesting when looking at the updates page, the community updates, they released stuff. They released a lot about safety on the internet as soon as the resurgence happened, basically. It was like they realised they were now coming back into the public eye and they had to look like they were still moderating the chat and increasing the safety standards. It's slightly disheartening to me that it's only a priority to them when they are popular. I had a look on their safety and security news tab, and now of course there might be articles. Hello. Of course, there could be other articles about this that are not tagged into that, but this is just looking at that, so it's an approximation. I saw that they released 8 updates and articles under the safety and security news tab about online safety from September 23, 2020 to January 2021, after the surge in popularity. So in under a year, in about 6 months, they released 8 articles about internet safety. But there were only 3 articles under that tab released in 2019 and only 5 in 2018. So what does that tell you? Habbo Hotel's popularity soared by 213% approximately between February and March 2020, so when everyone was locked inside. And this actually caused the economy in Habbo Hotel to boom, as all these older items were now being reintroduced into the trading in the marketplace system. So it was actually a good thing for everyone who was in there that was a long-term trader. So the economy was revitalised. Trading actually became the main focus of the game for that short period, I think. People were really interested in trading, and anyone who'd been a long-term trader was really excited to trade with people who were now reintroducing older items. However, there was then another controversy. It was leaked that the trading system was going to be removed from the game, and that you could not trade one-on-one with people from your inventory anymore, and that it would be a universal marketplace where you'd sell to the marketplace and you could buy from the marketplace but not from each other. It was just general. One-to-one trading was a fundamental category and priority for players for about 17 years on this game, and so it was bad. For those who'd created role-playing businesses within the Habbo Hotel, because you couldn't one-on-one trade, you couldn't pay the employees anymore with furniture or money, and the only function they were introducing was the donate thing, but you could only give a maximum of 9 credits, and you were also taxed 1 credit per donation. This caused a huge influx in the black market of Habbo Hotel items, where people would pay real money for items and sell for real money through a middleman. There was a massive crash because collectors were trying to sell off all of their in-game wealth in order to kind of get back some of the money they put into the game. Because obviously you get a rare item, you could sell it off for real money, but if there's no one-on-one trading, you can't trade that item to someone for real money anymore. So everyone was trying to sell off everything they had in terms of in-game currency so they could recuperate it. This saw 50 credits dropping from £2.50 to 90p on that website. And it also caused a massive influx of scams where people would lose real money trying to trade off their Habbo Hotel items. This was all happening before the new Habbo was released. And this was happening because Flash has obviously been discontinued by Adobe. So they needed to recreate Habbo Hotel in a non-Flash system because it was a Flash-based game. So they were redoing it in Unity, so it would be released in Unity. However, the switchover wasn't very successful. They released it in open beta in December 2020, and it was received rather poorly. It was very buggy, people didn't like it. So it didn't help that it was buggy because everyone was already a bit disgruntled about trading, and of course they were slowly losing the new players they'd regained because people were going back to their normal lives or they'd lost interest in that means of socialising. Oh! They postponed the full release of the Unity version twice, and it was actually released in January 12th, 2021. And the players decreased by 56%. It appears that most people set off looking for new places to go, new websites to use, new games to play. In my opinion, it feels like when the returning players came, their excitement dwindled. Anyone who liked the game for some of its trading systems or some of its instrumental features were now unable to do those things, so they'd left and they'd sold off all their stuff, so they didn't need to be there anymore. Since then, in February 2021, they released the Flash version of the game again, but in Unity, if that makes sense, with the old system, so the old trading system, the old marketplace, everything like that, so people could play either version of the game. I'm going to read you their statement. They were going to release the old Flash version of Habbo Hotel alongside the Unity one so they could have time to reach suitable compromise on key issues like trading. They stated this old version wouldn't be up for long and it was just used to buy us time to get the Unity one right. And this was clearly an attempt to bring back the old players by suggesting that for now you can still trade in the old Flash version, and we're going to try and reintroduce that into the new game. However, again, in my opinion, it's too little too late because most people had dumped off all their in-game currency already. Most people had left all their items. Most people had already sold that all off. And if they were going to reinvest in all those things again, they'd probably do it at a cost that was too much for them. This last announcement was made in February, the 11th of February 2021. It is currently the 25th of April as I'm filming this. So it's been 2 months and there haven't really been many updates in terms of what they're intending to do with the new Habbo Hotel and how they're going to fix it. I went on Habbo Hotel. I went on both the Unity version and the Flash version. They both look very, very similar because obviously they're both now running Unity, apart from the only thing that's different is my sticky notes that were left back in 2008 work in the Flash version but don't work in the new version. You can trade in the old version and not in the new version, so on and so forth. I went into the English version and I mean it was busier than it probably was before the resurgence in 2020. I had a look. So the most popular room in the hotel had 61 people in it, which is quite nice. However, there was only one room with that amount of people. The next popular room had about 40 people in it and there were 3 rooms with that. There were 2 rooms in their 30s in population and there were 10 in the 20s and 7 in the 10s, and all the rest had about 2 people in it. So still significantly quieter than the days where you could literally scroll for hours through all the rooms with hundreds of people in it. But busier than the time where there were only 25 people in each room and there were only 7 rooms. But it is pretty dead. It feels pretty dead, and going through the rooms it feels like the majority of people who are there are adults who have been loyal players. The majority are people who are in companies, that role-playing companies and businesses that are loyal to those role-playing companies and businesses. A lot of traders who are still there or trying to build up as traders, are the new traders in the Habbo world, but it is quiet. I actually went through and gave all these traders all my old stuff that was just sitting in my rooms because it's not any good to me anymore, is it? And that brings us to now, really. Who knows what's going to happen with Habbo Hotel? I certainly don't. I have no doubt that they will retain some of their fan base and they will keep some of the people that are still on there today, despite the 2 versions of Habbo Hotel that are up. Whether or not it's enough people to keep Habbo Hotel running for the next 5 years is another question. I feel like they screwed themselves over when they removed the trading system because they lost so many people who sold off all their things and they have no reason to return now when the trading system's re-implemented. But for me, this is the end of my time on Habbo Hotel. Rest in peace, footy fan gal, the Habbo Hotel with no hair. And thank you for wasting 21 days of my childhood. So that is the end of today's video. Thank you for sitting through this if you did. I really enjoyed making it. I'd love to know your thoughts. If you were one of the people that were back onto Habbo Hotel during the lockdown, let me know what you thought, how it was to you, if you experienced any of the inappropriate behaviour that used to be prevalent. I mean, I guess it could be argued that it's no longer a children's game because the majority of its players are adults. But yes, if you're interested in more videos like this, please do let me know, and any suggestions of games, movies, anything like that you want me to explore, let me know too. And that's it.
Thanks so much for watching this video. This is Olive in Post. I just thought I'd give you a reminder to hit subscribe if you enjoyed and want to see more of this content. And if you want to support my channel and let me make these videos more often, then feel free to check out my Patreon, but no pressure. Bye!
Thanks for watching.